right, now we're good. I'm not going to record because usually that takes up way too much CPU. And then we come into here. And then once we're going live, you take the video URL, you put that into this titler program, and that's how people's comments and stuff can pop up. But the real trick too is you got to be really quick and mute it.
Right.
Otherwise, you get the feedback shit.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so show video. That's good. Copy. Over there. Okay. Here. So yeah, last night it was just kind of a pain in the ass because there was a person who, I mean, I've met this guy plenty of times before. We went to a different bar, and he's a nice guy. But alcohol kind of takes effect a little bit, and then he makes a little weird kind of decisions. You know what I mean? So I can't tell if that's really the person or if it's the alcohol.
Or it's the effect.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that, it's just a judgment call. But anyways, when I saw him, I sat down. I don't know if he recognized me. I definitely recognized him. But I was just doing my business and writing my notes. And the first thing he does is he goes and does karaoke. And it's like the saddest fucking song about someone that like wants to kill themselves. Like that's like When I'm Gone stuff.
Damn.
Like, Jesus, man. It's just... So I didn't really know what to make of that. But later on, he comes up to me. He's like, oh, hey, man, what's going on? It's good to see you.
Right.
Yeah, it's good to see you, too. I was kind of worried about you. Like, I don't know if it's an appropriate thing to say that. Because I know the karaoke is just, it's a fun thing to do. But then I was thinking, like, do we sit there and sound the alarm if we see that person do karaoke like over and over and over? And it's just like that terrible fucking I'm going to go away song. By the way, I got to do the end.
Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Yarr, that's right, me hearties.
Yeah, a lot of sympathy applauses. And, he was with friends and all that stuff as well. So it just kind of worked out. And, I mean, I just found it to be quite odd, just in general. And then this other, like, real drunk guy, he was sitting next to me, and he was like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, my name's Austin. He's like, I love you. I'm like, I love you too, buddy. All right.
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do to that? Like, they're intoxicated. They're having a good time.
Just say thanks, man.
Just thanks. You don't say I love you back?
You don't have to.
No. So, going back to Mr. Karaoke Guy, we started talking, and
can you turn your volume down a little bit?
Yeah, is it too loud?
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Didn't mean to blow your ears.
That's still like...
It's still too loud?
Pitch, yeah.
Here. We'll do that. Is
That's
that better?
Way better.
A lot better? Yeah,
it's
just the headphones. Good volume. So, I mean, anyways, I tried to explain myself the best I could, and he's like, so what are you up to? I'm like, oh, well, all that shit I talked to you about, with the previous bar?
Right.
Now I'm doing it. Now I got a show and a podcast, and we're doing all this stuff and getting guests in. And I shot myself in the foot when I said that, because, of course, the first thing he's like, well, really, if you ever want a guest on for doing this? I'm like, shit. Here we go.
So you weren't holding the sign up. Anybody want to be a guest
I
on
don't
the show?
know. I don't do that shit. That's retarded.
You could pay somebody to do it on a street corner.
I mean, yeah, one of the original ideas was we were going to print out a bunch of cards and, just like from Kinko's or something, and then just go to like a random library. Just start just like putting them in like books but no one fucking reads anymore. So we're going to get like some 90-year-old woman like, hello, is this the Pirate Ship podcast? So.
It's an interesting way to promote yourself. Let's try
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do it. So you have some questions?
Yeah. So, Austin.
Yep.
How's it going? How's your week?
Again, it's good despite all the alcohol that I consumed, putting the pieces back together, but working really hard towards this goal and working on getting some guests and guests that actually have something going on with their life and that we can cross promote.
Right.
I just can't afford or just have people just come in traipsing in here because there's a security factor as well. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I don't. It's not just my house. This is me and my fiance's house. So I got to be cognizant about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, totally.
That was your hard hitting question.
No, it's just you're busy, so
Yeah, big time. Big time.
I'll give you a moment.
You're good. I'm
So
good.
you don't get flustered.
I can multitask.
Post the wrong thing, the wrong place. At the
No,
right
we're
time.
fine. We're good.
So tell me about your work life.
Work life.
Yeah, what do you do for a living?
So for work, I kind of stumbled into it, and it's a fine dining server. After I got back from the Marines, it was always doing the serving thing because it was a real easy job.
Right.
Because when you're working at Chili's, you can also schedule yourself to go to school, and if in flexible hours, that's perfect. And so, plus you had money on hand. A friend of mine kind of showed me the ropes, and I just kind of fell into it. And once I started doing that, it was okay until I started getting into college. And then when I got into college, I would start getting paid by the government to go to school, so I didn't really need that income. So I kind of fell on the wayside. I had some cheese dick job of like,
Cheese stick job.
yeah, never heard that expression before.
No.
So it was just it was a cheese dick job it was a copy room at the music department at the University of North Texas. And all you would do is you'd have professors that would come in, ask to make these copies, collate them, all that stuff, and that's pretty much it. The other cool part about that job, though, was I got to walk around. Every professor would leave their key with somebody that was going to play that instrument or that was studying that instrument, and when they wanted to practice more, the professors would let them go into their office, studio, if you will, and it was our job to go unlock those doors. And so I kind of took that opportunity every time I was walking with those people, asking them questions about what they were doing and projects. And one of the coolest things that I learned, there was a music project one student was doing, and it was about how the professor asked, how can you listen to anything in life and write an argument that it couldn't be music? And I thought, wow, that's
Like anything you can even
anything,
think
just
of?
anything in general. And I think the whole concept is you can't. So everything is some type of sound and music, and
Right.
so I thought that was really cool. That's always stuck
at
with
the
me.
base level, there's
Yeah.
bass and treble.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
much what it's about.
anyways, after that, I had to get a job because I decided to stop going to school.
And what were you studying?
I was studying for radio, television, and film. I wanted to be on the radio, and I learned I had to go through all the red tape, and I just got out of the Marines. It's not like I was expecting anything. It's just I just didn't want to be an intern again. I didn't want to do something that I'd be miserable at, where it wasn't a guarantee that I could do it. So I had to find my own way of doing it, which is this. But at the same time, you have to make money. So then I kind of landed. It's not about what you know; it's who you know.
Right. And
So-
would you say that you kind of got sick of the whole starting over again?
Yeah,
and again?
absolutely. Well, I mean, the problem with being taught the skill set is you were being taught a skill set, but you weren't getting a guarantee that that's going to be what you did.
Right.
And that's something I learned really quickly as far as like, if I don't do something for myself and I'm just relying on everybody else, there's no guarantee I'm going to get that shot. And so that was just something that I didn't want to risk.
Yeah.
So Eric Pennick, Yo Stu. I don't know who
Looks
that
like
is.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah. So after all that, I landed a job as a bartender, and I didn't have any experience. I said I had like 2 months experience. The guy wanted to fire me immediately.
Damn.
But he
First
didn't.
night?
Well, yeah, probably. It was probably the first night. But I mean, I just tried to do the best. The only thing that kept me that job was we weren't allowed to smoke. I would do it anyway, but every time I would do it, lo and behold, there was the general manager that hired me out there smoking as well. And he'd be upset about something. And so we just ended up talking, and we started forming a friendship through that. And they kind of got to know me a little bit better. And that was the whole thing about when you're a bartender, you're kind of like a jack of all trades. You're a preacher, you're a psychologist, you're a friend, you're
a shoulder
to cry on. It's everything.
Advisor.
And so, Yeah, I liked that a lot actually. And so I ended up getting fired once they had some weird shit go down. They wanted to turn everything over and make it this weird kind of new concept.
Right.
And the funny part was, the guy that fired me actually ended up killing his wife and then himself 2 months later.
Wow.
Which is just super strange. And so like I didn't really know what to make of that, except that, you know, just I always had to follow my heart. And so what I would do is after I got fired, I like had like these notes and these papers, and I'd take them to this bar, and I'd be just like sitting there looking through like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck? And
Right.
there was this guy who was next to me looking at this, and he was like, what's the problem? And I showed it to him, like, dude, does this not seem like kind of fucked up? Like, I understand, you know, you want some type of structure. I get that, but this is all fear-induced based, and this is just unnecessary. And he took one look at that. He was like, yeah, you're right. You should come work for me. I was like, all right. Well, what is that? And he was like, just come on in. So I showed up. Yeah, he's like, yeah, show up like, you know, tomorrow. So I show up in like shorts and a Marine t-shirt. I'm like, hey man, I'm here. He goes, okay, your interview's down here. And so the other manager just looks at me. He's like, so do you normally dress like this for interviews, or is this kind of like a take me as I am kind of thing? I was like, I had no idea it was an interview.
Right.
And so, you know, I've been there ever since. It's a great job, man. I love it.
That's awesome. Awesome.
It's like the people. The
Yeah.
people really make that a special place.
Do you get stressed out there?
All the time. Fuck yeah, dude. That's part of to me, it's not a job. It's just an opportunity on how to manage stress.
Stress. Yeah, stress.
And that's
management
all it
classes
is. Absolutely.
That
So
you get paid for.
that's exactly it. I'm getting paid to manage stress, to manage my own stress, to just not freak out. And the more and more that I can start understanding and mastering that skill, the more it's easier for me to do something like this, or to be able to go out, like do karaoke or do stand up. It gives you a lot of confidence as far as, you know, when you're thrown into the fire.
Yeah, I get that from my my living also.
Yeah.
It's a very stressful environment, fast paced. You got to be able to adapt. Be
Yeah.
very versatile.
Very true.
You know. So what about your love life?
Love life. Oh man, I met the best person for me. I'll say, like, you know, it's not I met the best person.
Well,
It's,
you proposed.
I'm yeah.
that says everything.
Yeah, I met one of the coolest, nicest, most beautiful person in life. And I mean, I'm honestly like baffled every time like she would say yes kind of thing. But, you know, the way that worked was I just noticed, just physically being around her, even if we weren't talking before, it was just physically being around her, life changed. Like, everything about life changed. It's hard to describe. And I can sit there and analyze myself and say, was that the endorphins kicking through and the chemical of love? It could have been. But for me personally, the experience was, holy shit. I mean, that was something truly special. I need to pay attention to that.
Right.
Because I'm not going to find out with other people. And so we just kind of, we took it really slow. But and we never really wanted this in the first place. And I think that was the cool thing that we kind of did. We was like, look, let's take it super slow. No expectations. I am me, you are you. And we'll just kind of figure this out as we go. And that's kind of what happened. And so
Sounds like a pretty good strategy.
it is.
Like,
It is. I recommend that to a lot of people. I mean, I'm not saying it's the pinnacle, but I
Sure.
feel like it definitely helps out a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people just rush in,
Yes.
you know, because they're afraid of losing the potential of something
Yes.
that they kind of try too hard, maybe.
There's an
You know?
expectation
Yeah.
that has to be met, and it's what we've been told in life. I think it's, you know, you're supposed to meet somebody, and then after you meet somebody, you're supposed to have all this time to where you figure out if that's going to be the person you're going to be with. And then once you have that allotted time, then you're supposed to propose and get married. And then once you get married, you're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to have a family, yada, yada, yada. And I feel like it's part of the American dream. It's also part of what we deem as normal. But to me, when I was a kid, I would always ask these older men, what is the secret to life? Like, what is the secret to being happy? And they would
Right.
say, don't ever get married, don't ever have kids. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to follow that for a little bit and see where that takes me. And that's kind of what I learned. And I think the concept with that is because once you have children, you know, your life does kind of end and theirs begins. And you're kind of supposed to be there to support them. And that's the one thing I've realized is there's a lot of parents out there that aren't happy because they never got to live their full potential or their dreams, and now it's time for the child to do so.
This is true.
And that creates resentment.
To a degree, and it can, and it does quite usually, I imagine. But at least in my experience, in my family, kind of, my personal experience, I don't really see that.
No.
It's more of a like, oh, we'll all achieve our own goals together.
Right.
Dreams together, so.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that went back to what we brought up before about the whole parenting versus parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the people who are your parents make the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's a weird, for me, I've had to kind of look at it, and I call it the Indiana Jones effect, where's that moment, like, because in the movie, there's Indy as a child, and he's doing all of his little things, but as he gets older, he screws up, but the hat's dawned on him, and when the hat's dawned on him, he becomes Indiana Jones, and he's, like, punched in the face.
Yeah.
But that's the concept I always kind of look at is, where did, like Einstein, for example, where did Albert go from little Alberto or Albert or Albie to Albert Einstein? And knowing what happened to his parents. Yeah. Does anyone even give a shit? And so I've always kind of looked at that. You writing something down?
For later.
All right.
So what's your passions? Obviously, the show's one.
Definitely.
Is it what? Where does it lie in the top 3?
Oh,
of Austin's passion.
Honestly, just being behind a microphone.
Number one?
Yeah, just the passion. Being behind a microphone is one of the coolest things, I think. Hell, even if it's like a megaphone, because your voice is being heard. And I think that has always been something I've loved to do. I've loved to play music. I've loved to always just put myself out there. And so I kind of realized that being behind a microphone is the best way to do that. Whether it's comedy, whether it's a podcast, whether it's, hell, just a fundraiser or something, or maybe a best man speech. You know what I mean? Like things like that. There's an opportunity behind there. And so that's my passion.
Would you like to do your own best man speech at your wedding?
No, fuck that. That's dangerous.
You always say you want to do a best man speech.
Well, I mean, I was going back to when I did the best man speech for my best friend. Okay. It was impromptu. And I had nothing prepared, didn't write anything down, but it just felt right. And I mean, hell, I could have just been in my head.
Right.
But for me, that was the moment. I had to pull something out of my ass, and I had to make it special, and I had to make it really like concrete. And I did do that. I also had some experience, but again, like the one best man speech I did before, it was so shitty because I was like, I just love these two people, and I can tell they're gonna be together forever. 2 years later, they're divorced. It's like, goddamn, dude.
Cringeworthy.
It is. It sucks. It sucks when you put yourself out there with a nice speech, and then it's just, it's like, that's fucking selfish,
it's like
dude.
It didn't even help at all.
Yeah. Like,
what the heck? Some people, Austin.
Well, what can you do?
Yeah. So on people, what's your biggest dislike about, I don't know, idiosyncrasies? Your worst irritable idiosyncrasy that you notice in an individual?
Definitely laziness. Laziness, ignorance. I can't really, put my stamp on, because ignorance is just ignorance. They just don't know any better. But when you know better and you choose laziness or stupidity, I can't stand that, because to me it's a choice. You're making a choice to either put your head down, say it's too difficult, or then you start blaming other people. And that's really my big pet peeve. If you just want to be that type of person and not bother anybody else, I'm completely fine with that. But it's when you start affecting other people. It's when your decision of either being lazy or not putting your 2 cents in, or not putting your work in to the community effect, is now taking over everybody else's concept to where they have to pick up your slack.
Exactly.
That's where I get very upset, because it's just, I understand life's not fair, but that's the whole concept of what I think it is to be a human being, and how we are to treat one another, is to be courteous and to pull our own weight.
Yeah,
and that comes with, absolutely. And that comes with like an emotional state as well. If something's bothering you, don't take it out on somebody else.
Right.
It's not their fault you're having a shitty day. But you see that a lot constantly. Yeah. So those are my big pet peeves.
So anger outbursts.
To what?
Anger outbursts?
Yeah, I don't like that. Definitely can't stand that shit.
So what's your worst habit?
Worst habit? That's a good question. Definitely eating late. Eating late's a terrible habit. I eat and go to sleep. Like, that's terrible. It's awful. Usually I'm up working in the studio or doing something, and then I get really hungry. And right when I get hungry is right when I eat, and then I feel good, and I'm satisfied, and then I sleep.
And
And
then
then I wake
full.
up, I'm like, oh, God, why am I so fat? That's definitely it.
So do you have to like wake up in the middle of the night and turn over real quick because you're
well-
about to choke?
No. What I would used to do was when I would wake up in the middle of the night, I'd either go for like a run or I'd go to the gym because my body was able to handle that stuff. But lately it's been kind of out of whack a little bit, so I've been kind of having to deal with that. So that's where the food comes in because I can tell like my body's craving something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if we're not working out and we're not running, well, we need nutrients, so let's go.
Right.
And usually Jack in the Box is the only thing that's open. Jack in the Box and Whataburger. I know that's a bad habit. See, even you
go.
cringe.
There you
It's
go.
awful.
No, because I have the same one.
Oh yeah, it's so good though.
Favorite song as of this year?
Oh, definitely A Star Is Born. It's either Shallow by Lady Gaga. Definitely, man, definitely.
What is it about it?
I don't know. I don't like that. It's like an earbug. It's just as soon as it hits me, like I can't get it out of my head, and it's just a constant. It's a beautiful song in the first place, and just how hard it is to write songs now because pretty much everything's been done before. You kind of have to give a lot of credit. There's my alarm. Sorry. But yeah, that definitely A Star Is Born. Shallow. I love that
Good,
fucking
good
song.
stuff.
It's good stuff.
Role models.
Top
3, go.
Damn. Russ Martin. I don't know, Tony Romo. Tony Romo's turned into my role model as well. Just how he dealt with that adversity and not being able to get to where he wanted to go, but being able to channel that into something just incredible, especially in the broadcasting field. That's awesome.
Third one.
Let's see here. Honestly, Louis C.K. I mean, I know it sounds terrible, but that guy, he's the epitome of what it means to be in the public eye. As far as when the public eye likes you and when the public eye doesn't like you. Just like night and day. He hasn't changed anything besides admitting to something he's done, and already everyone's just out of it. Like, fuck you. We're done with you.
Right. What was your alarm for? Next segment.
My mother says, worst habit is smoking. Love, Mom. What would you ask me? Sorry.
Last question. Life skills.
Life
Learned
skill.
from your dad and your mom. Your dad first.
Oh, I definitely learned spirituality and religion from my dad. He taught me there was a God and pretty much go find it. My mother taught me how to pretty much overcome any obstacle. She has this saying, it's how do you eat an elephant? You cut it up in small pieces. And if you think about it that way, it takes away that fear a little bit and makes it
daunting aspect.
it makes it manageable. Yeah. So you prioritize, categorize and prioritize. And so and she also taught me how to problem solve really well. Just not even just about like big problems, but how to think and how to see things from like different angles and how to kind of keep an open mind as far how to solve those problems. And if you can't come up with one yet, just come up with 10 ridiculous solutions. And
So the concept of perspective.
yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. Being able to think outside the box, I'd say. Yeah.
It's a good one.
Fucking smoking. She's funny. Surprised she's still up. That's right. She doesn't have to go into work. She works from home. When did you write these? Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
When did you write these questions down?
Like
Just
5 minutes
just
before
5
we
minutes
started
ago.
and while we were talking. But do you want to keep going with
Yeah.
the interview? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
What's your thoughts on education in
Oh.
the U.S. system?
Oh. Well, it's kind of interesting as far as our education systems go. You have to teach them how to read. If you can teach them how to read and you can teach them the technological field, they can pretty much educate themselves. That's my thought on that. Yeah, you can teach history and you can teach all of these subject matters, but the problem is some of it's antiquated and outdated. Like I saw a funny meme about like, oh, I'll never use algebra, or I'll never have to use this, and they're kind of right because the phone does it all for you. It's kind of a scary concept too. I don't really necessarily agree with that, but times are changing so fast that I don't think there is a practicality to understanding how to do long division when there's bigger problems at hand, when a computer can do that for you. I'm not saying it's not important to teach the concept, but I don't think failing a student and saying they have a learning disability and then all of a sudden they're fucking pumped with Ritalin or whatever goes on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's one of the issues is
an extreme.
Yeah, and that goes into just how the teacher is in general. So there's a lot of factors that play into that. That if you're going to get to the nuts and bolts of it, we have to stop looking at students in like this grading process. I feel it's more about how we can help. And grades, yeah, they're a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily dictate what that child's skill set is. You could have someone that just understands information very briefly, spits it all out and regurgitates it, and all of a sudden gets an A, an A+, but never actually retains that long-term knowledge. And I've seen that a lot. I've actually gone through that where they're like sitting there like, no, you have to understand this. You have to understand. Okay, fine. I'll apply myself, get off my fucking back. There's your A+, leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's not how I think in the first place. I think so much more abstractly.
You know,
yeah, like even like the multiple choice questions, like, it would fuck me up all the time because I would see these different possibilities. It was like having a philosophical mind of, well, it could be that, yes. Yeah, I can see how it could be A. And B, yes, it could be B. Now you got E, none of the above. What the fuck? Yeah. And so I've always had this idea of just record the child as they're taking the test, because then you can see them thinking. Then you can start seeing if they're actually thinking and problem solving, or if they're just sitting there just whatever.
Yeah, and base it more on merit, not quick short-term memory ability.
Yeah, and also as far as like what are we teaching our kids?
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I'm sure that's a parent's worst nightmare.
So a civilization who is blind to its history is sure to fail. Do you agree with that?
Say that again.
A civilization who is blind to its history is sure to fail.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to learn from failures. That's the big one. It's egotistically. America is a proponent of that. It's so young if you look at it from a statistical standpoint, as far as how old Europe really is compared to how old America is. And we think we're the big boys on the block, but you know, there's some longevity that Europe has. Sure, America's gotten this prosperity and this wealth, but at what cost? And how long is that going to happen? I mean, Rome fell, you know, within its own structure. And so I'm not saying that would happen to America. I think being too divided causes that. I mean, there's so much of a separation to where it couldn't even crumble because one side wouldn't allow it to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But eventually both would shatter because they're so brittle.
That's fair. And you know, countries like Russia and China.
Do you like gardening?
Gardening? No.
No interest
absolutely
whatsoever?
Not. No.
You don't like planting seeds?
No, not at all.
Watching them bloom?
No, I could give a shit less. I think I tried growing a plant once, and it just didn't work out very well. And that is just something I just haven't been born with. My dad's side, his father, has a green thumb, loves growing everything, just so damn good at it. For me, I don't know why. I just never really
didn't catch the bug.
I didn't catch. You know, I wasn't made up with that one.
So, what's your biggest dream in 5 years?
Biggest dream in 5 years? To be able to make a living off doing stuff like this.
Cool.
Making a living talking behind a microphone. And at the same time, I know it sounds stupid. If that happened, I would still keep the job that I have. I love it too much. It's just, not only has it been too good to me, but I really do. I feel like it's a little slice of paradise. But it's how you make it that way. And again, it comes with the people. Those people there, they really do like... It makes it enjoyable to get to go there. And so I couldn't imagine just doing this and not having that experience as well, which is also kind of a nice contrast because it makes the beer sweeter at the end of the night. So,
what's your opinion on time capsules?
Time capsules, just like, kind of like looking back in the past. One of the biggest things that I was taught by my mom was don't dwell in the past. which, you know, sorry for time travelers, but I mean, the concept, that's the concept is, I mean, take a look back, but don't stay in there. And that's kind of something I like. There's this show called Future Man. Really funny concept. There are these time traveling warriors, right? One's named Tiger, one name's Wolf. And Wolf is this, you know, the cliche big badass motherfucker. He's a time warrior, and he comes back, and all of a sudden they find the 80s, and then he just goes, "Okay, I'm no longer Wolf. My name's Corey, and I found my slice of paradise. It's the 80s." And I think that kind of statement kind of shows like how dangerous it could be. You know, if you dwell in the past, that's where you kind of start going, and that's reverting instead of moving forward. Yeah. So I think that's what a time capsule is. It's nice. It shows you like what you've done, but also it could be kind of a pain in the ass, or it can like kind of be hurtful because if you haven't done anything with your life, you know what I mean, and you dig that time capsule up, it's just like, holy shit, this has just been a complete waste.
So the reason I brought up time capsules, you can see monuments throughout history being created by civilization. Do you think they, in their way, are time capsules?
Yes and no. I mean, as far as the only thing I could think of a time capsule would be like the Georgia Guidestones. That is a good indicator. Other things are just expressions, I would say. It's how we express ourselves as humanity. Just because the pyramids were built wasn't necessarily a statement saying this is what we're going to look at in the future and see. Hopefully it's still there. I mean, it could be, but I just don't think that's the main priority. I just think those are artistic expressions. You know, as far as like when you're talking like monuments and statues.
To that magnitude, though?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to answer. That's a really tough question. But yeah, it's hard to kind of put yourself back into that civilization, look at it through those civilization goggles, if you will, because we don't have that context. And that's really the big one. Unless you're going to go study 20 years of Arabic or Aramaic or whatever and actually understand what those symbols were and why they were meant for that specific purpose, it's just kind of speculation. So, I mean, as primitive and, you know, as it's kind of hard, primitive and advanced, you want to hope that they were doing it as an expressive state and not just hopefully the future civilizations will see this, that they actually wanted to like put their own flavor into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not like you and I are like, we're going to build this so in 30,000 years people see it. You know what I mean? Like that.
Holy shit, cool.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's like that would be really fucking arrogant. You know, like, okay, we're going to build this structure. Well, what's the purpose? Is it going to help humanity? No. It's going to be for 30,000 years later when those fuckers see it and they'll be like, "Oh, those guys did it." That's what it's for.
So you think
Don't
that's
touch
why
it.
They were constructed for that one reason?
No, I think it was a different purpose. I think there's still a purpose we haven't figured out.
Yeah, I agree. So time capsules being sent out into space.
Yeah. Now, that's an interesting one because, you know, when it came to how you would communicate in the first place, like the pictures that they chose and the music that they did, I thought that was the coolest idea, was using the type of music that we had from the perspective of Earth. And it wasn't just like, we think this is Earth's favorite song. It was a mixture of different things. Also like water running. I mean, that's really cool because like just the universal sound of water, if there's calming. A stream or something else around, that could be, barring any language, that is the way that we can interpret something together, not understanding that language. That's the sound of water. That's exactly what I know what that is. Oh, that must mean there's life there.
Right. Interesting.
Well, I mean, just to get into that point as far as like, just like time travel, like just to get to a far place. I heard this the other day. They're talking about like actually like making couples and they'll have babies and then that generation will die. And then that generation's supposed to have another child and teach them the skills and have that passed on. And this is in a capsule in space and like keep this going, let's say for like 80 years till you get to that next kind of terrestrial form of a planet or wherever you want to.
Wow.
Now think about that. Now, kudos to that motherfucker for that thought. When they're all just brainstorming around the table like, Johnson, What you got? Like, people just got to fuck each other a lot. Pass those
Keep it
skills.
going, man.
Keep it going. Pass
Till we
them
find
skill
them.
sets down.
Yeah. So who would you pick as the 2 volunteers?
To what?
2 volunteers for this mission, Austin.
What are you talking about?
What 2 celebrities would you pick to send
Oh,
out?
fuck celebrities. Are you kidding me?
Who would you send out? Can't pick
Oh,
yourself.
damn. No. I mean, honestly, it would have to be people with an eclectic and efficient skill set. Fuck acting. I don't think acting's going to help when you're out there and you're trying to survive and problem solve.
Yeah.
So I would say an astronaut. I would say definitely all astronauts. Whatever they do to, you have to go through the rigor mortem just to be an astronaut. That the right stuff, if you will, I would say that qualifies, and that's what we should have up there. As far because if there are problems that go on or anyone has to solve something, you have to use mathematics to understand simple problem-solving skills to keep people alive. Yeah, that's what you want.
So how about a combination like an engineer and a scientist?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you
Absolutely.
think that would be sufficient?
An engineer and a scientist? Yeah, definitely. And then throw in definitely like a botanist, a biologist.
So now the group's increasing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So how many are we sending?
Well, shit. I mean, think about it. If you're going to go somewhere, maximum output. I mean, maximum output, less efficiency. Is that the right? I don't know. I'm just making up words now. You want the most out of what you could do. And this is your one shot. You can't just go 50 years into this traveling concept and say, "Oops, we forgot something." You know what I mean? It's like you're packing up for this long trip you're going to make. You have to make sure you can't just go back because you forgot your iPod charger. You know what I mean? Or you have to adapt and overcome. If you don't have your iPad charge or whatever, you got to fucking learn how to make one.
Yeah, make a battery.
Exactly, because it's what it's like. It's like you're going on this long journey in a vehicle, and you can't stop at any stores. You can't stop at a friend's house or anything like that. This is just you have to pack everything and make it as efficient as possible.
Yeah, you only get one shot.
That's right.
What compliment do you get the most embarrassed about?
My smile.
Why?
It's kind of weird. When I was a kid, excuse me. I had a chance to be a model, and I didn't like that lifestyle, especially when they talked about what it was to be a model, which is you don't know who your friends are, don't get into drugs because drugs are going to be around all the time. It just sounds like you don't. Fuck that. That sounds shitty. And then people just sit there and take pictures of you. No thanks. I'm good. But it was always based on what you looked like as well. So like when I was a kid, I looked better. I had hair and the younger features, but it was my smile. And they would always make me smile. It'd be like, smile really, really big, really big. And I don't like doing that. I don't like smiling because I feel like it's fake. I want to smile when it's genuine.
Yeah.
When I'm having that heartfelt laugh, when I'm having that, oh man, that's a really good moment. That's when that smile will come into play. Or if I'm really afraid, like something's really terrifying, and I'm nervous, and I'll put that fake smile on. That is that emotion that I'll use it for, not just the constant like smiling all the time.
You kind of snap back to that.
Yeah, well, you ever hear that
almost.
concept? You should smile more. Smile more. It'll make you feel happy. I'm not in the business to be happy. I don't know. Like, I understand, like, that's the concept of the life and pursuit of happiness. I get that. But I feel like just if you want to live your life being happy, that's an unfulfilled life because it's just not possible. You're going to go through all these different emotions. And I think it's best to understand how you cope with those emotions. And just because you're not hitting on happy doesn't mean life's over. It's
Right.
going to be okay. You could go through sorrow. You can go through all this stuff. And I feel like that's an even more important aspect to go through as a human being is understanding how to process those emotions.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, it's supposed to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just a straight line upward,
Right.
always, forever.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of dreaming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that kind of ties back into what we talked about when somebody is not very good academically,
Yeah.
and then they're put into a category, and then they're medicated.
Right.
Then, when they're older, and they're kind of formulating their own mindset and mentality and perspective on things, they're adversely affected from this initial medication. So then they got to get remedicated to suit those, after effects.
Right.
So what's your opinion on that?
It's hard when you do something like that because now you're introducing a variable that the individual doesn't know. Is it the medication or is it their natural self? And when you confuse those and you confound those types of variables into that subject, it becomes so much more difficult for the individual to cope with the natural normal experience. And so those natural normal experiences don't become natural normal anymore. They become tainted, whether it's through, again, the chemical or through, holy shit, was I just always just fucked up and I never knew that. And then you start developing, it develops complexes, and then a lot of bad things can happen from that. We're talking like multiple personality disorder. We're talking about, what is the one where they're real, OCD, that's another one. Just all these weird types of parameters in the human mind and psyche that just something snaps and these behaviors start occurring. Addiction's another one too. Like even like the addiction as far as like someone that doesn't like that feeling, but they're chained to it. Especially like when the medications now, I'll give you a great example. My fiance, she had to take prednisone. And prednisone's a steroid that you have to incrementally take it. Again, we're talking about this. That's that journey that we just kind of painted that picture of. You're not just taking this one hit or quitter.
Right.
This is, you have to taper on and then you have to taper off. And we're talking about once you taper on, it's been about a year. And then if you want to taper off, guess what? It's going to be like another year.
Wow.
And so to me, that's fucking dangerous. Like, that's so fucking dangerous because you're tampering with people's biochemistry. I understand that it's for a good purpose. You think it's for a good purpose, but every person has a different biochemistry themselves. And so they don't really, and that's, I'm a big proponent of that. Know your own body type, know your own self, know the things that work for you. Don't just do it because it worked for Joe Blow from that doctor's perspective, and they just think that you should do that too.
Yeah.
So,
and how do you feel about modern doctors just prescribing the latest drugs on the market for companies?
Well, we just pretty much touched on that, and that's the fact of, the Norton virus CEO, that guy. The whole concept was you had to have an antivirus as well. The virus and antivirus. That's how it all works. A lawyer couldn't be a great lawyer if there were no criminals. A doctor couldn't be a doctor if you didn't have any patients. And so once they understand that, the game is in play. Yeah. Pharmaceuticals and everything. I see it all the time, especially when you've got FDA regulations that now state it doesn't have to go through the test trials. All it has to do is just mimic the organical structure that has already been on the market for at least 5 years. I mean, you're not doing clinical trials at this point. You're just literally pumping out a product.
Yeah.
You're pumping out a product that can become very strange and addictive for people, and they don't give a shit. Like, I'll give you, Juul's a great example. I read an article today about that. So fuck the whole nicotine smoking companies. Yeah. The cigarette companies, they're already fucking assholes. We know this. But now you got this Juul company where it's going after children. Now, we already seen the cigarette and tobacco companies going after children, and then Congress like, hey, you can't do that. No. Okay, so they go to the wayside. They still target after the adults, menthols and all that stuff. Well, now it's the Juul. The whole part of the problem with the Juul was that it was marketed to not be nicotine, to not be tobacco. It's not the bad cigarettes that everyone's smoking. This is the cool hip stuff, the vaping that all the cool kids are doing.
Right.
And all you're attracting are children, and they're getting addicted because it's fucking 5% nicotine. And they're even looking at strands that are coming out that could be 7 to 9% nicotine. And so, again, it's the same monster. It's just got a different label, different packaging.
It's a reiteration of the same thing. Trying to be resold in the next generation.
Hey, but to be fair, man, cigarettes have always done that. Once you do it, put it out there. We need to stop. It won't happen.
So have movie companies, man.
Yeah, big time. Well, the only problem with movies and like Hollywood was like on its last legs, I felt, about, let's say, before the superhero stuff came out. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you had the blockbusters, and which only come out in the summertime, but everything else was pretty much garbage and trash. And you could
Right.
start seeing them recycle all these ideas, and it really looked like they were just stirring from the bottom of the barrel, just like, oh, what about this,
And just
Johnson?
doing whatever pulls
Johnson,
in.
what do we got here? Like, and then all of a sudden, some genius, which is probably Johnson, was like, hey, stop picking on me. There's all these superhero comics. Let's just make a bunch of movies about that, and then we can do it from each character. And like, Johnson, that's the best goddamn idea I've ever heard. And there we go, and then it's packaged and marketed that way. And so,
Yeah.
strap on, man. We're going to have the universe ride. We got the comic book universe ride for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Although Stan Lee did die, so we have to figure out the next one.
That's right. Frank Miller, maybe.
Maybe. That's it. That's all you got.
Who do you admire most in your personal life?
No, that's a great question. Seth MacFarlane.
In your personal life?
Oh, personal life. Man, I wish it was my personal life. Damn. That's a good question. Probably my fiance. That amount of love and compassion and just the wherewithal of trying to help other people, just in any general situation. I mean, that is just remarkable. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about like me not gardening? I definitely don't do that either. I'm not made up of that shit. I mean, I'm made up of some compassion, some love, but it's also kind of like tough love shit. Like she is just like she's so damn thoughtful, and it's not just me. And that's the one thing I kind of noticed, and definitely it's not something I'm used to. Mm-hmm. But she just goes, she'll be out somewhere, she's like, "Oh, I was just thinking about you, and I'm just gonna get this." It's like, wow, that's fuck. I got to do the same thing now. Like it's like I'm with you.
So back to initially when that guy at the bar said he loved you.
Yeah.
And you said, what do you say to that? I said, thanks, man. You
Yeah.
say, not I love you back.
Yeah.
So is that a thing you have in your relationship? That if you feel that if you don't hear it back
No.
straight away?
No. If she
That's a good thing.
if she says I love you, and if I'm not feeling it, I'll be like, okay.
And vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also like kind of like how you play around, That's the other fun part is having a real good relationship where you can start getting to that realm where you just kind of play and you poke at each other just a little bit because you're just trying to just get the
Well,
other.
there's that understanding.
Yeah.
It's just playful.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. No, that's cool, man. I think that's it.
That's all you got, man?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's like
Well,
almost
I'm
an hour.
super excited for Sunday.
Me too.
I got a real cool chick coming in named Georgia. Hopefully. She does a lot of Instagram. She goes to concerts and puts it all on Instagram and has a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. And there's a lot of questions. Last night when I was at the bar, I was kind of writing and looking at it like, man, there's a lot of cool shit she can do. Like she can start writing and like literally blogging and putting all that stuff in there. So hopefully we'll be able to talk to her on Sunday.
Cool.
Let's see. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Again, you can always Skype in at the Pirate Ship Podcast. The Pirate, that's the first. Blast is Ship Podcast. You can call in at 469-200-8812. Also, check out our website at tpspodcast.com and, of course, our Facebook page and all that wonderful shit. That's pretty much all I got.
Good night, everybody.
My friends, I stand before you to tell the truth most dire. There lurks a traitor in our midst who hath invoked the captain's ire. Don't deserve no mercy, we ought to shoot him with a gun. But I am not an evil man, so first let's have a little fun. We'll tie that scoundrel to a rope and throw him overboard. Drag him underneath the ship, a terrifying deadly trip. Kill all that filthy landlubber, send him down to the depths below. Make that bastard walk the plank with a bottle of rum and a yo-ho-ho. Kill all that filthy landlubber, send him down to the depths below. Make that bastard walk the plank with a bottle of rum and a yo-ho-ho. before you to tell a truth most dire. There lurks a traitor in our midst who hath invoked the captain's ire. Don't deserve no mercy, we ought to shoot him with a gun, but I am not an evil man, so first let's have a little fun. We'll tie that scoundrel to a rope and throw him overboard. Drag him underneath the ship, a terrifying deadly trip. Kill all that filthy landlubber, send him down to the depths below. Make that bastard walk the plank with a bottle